if you are starting out in a new field that you're not familiar with, always start out in an area where you do have some familiarity. And I think something in me thinks that I have to make this work. I have to do something to prove myself. So I just push through every day, as I know that I'm the only one responsible for my life. And if I don't do something, nobody's going to come to save me. So the difference between writing and copywriting is copywriting serves a purpose. Copywriting usually persuades people to act. And that's different from just plain essay writing. When I see the signal, right, that is my reward for like, okay, keep going. And how do you become better is that you borrow other people's knowledge. So I borrowed other people's knowledge in blog writing and LinkedIn writing and applied those in my writing. And I see that my writing is being scaled even more, and even more people reach out to me. So right now I am a career and brand coach. So I help people in the data field land top jobs, usually 6-figure, and add 20 to 50K to their salaries. And I also help people build their brand specifically on LinkedIn so that they can attract opportunities and clients. And I've been doing this for a year now. Before that, I was a data scientist for 8 to 9 years, mostly in the social media space, and consulting as well.
Awesome. For those of you who don't know, Mandy is actually my career coach. And what I want to ask you, Mandy, is going back to the very start of your career. I want to work through each stage of your career and how you got to where you are today, like specifically, and also like challenges that you faced and how you overcame them.
Yeah, so I have 2 distinct phases, right? One is when I was an employee, and one is what I'm now as a solopreneur. Do you specifically want to focus on how I become a solopreneur, or how I become a data scientist, or my whole journey?
So I want to focus on the whole journey and definitely start with, I guess, how you got into data science, like all the way back. And then we can work our way to solarpreneurship.
Yeah, sure. So I started as a consultant in New York because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And I was told that consulting is a good first job if you had no idea what you wanted to do, because it opened doors for you. So I did consulting, and I soon realized that, so my title was analytics consultant, and I soon realized that I was more into the analytics bit than the consulting bit. So at the time I had a friend who was a data scientist, so I asked him to mentor me. So he gave me like a lot of projects to do. He told me what to focus on, and he gave me his textbook. I worked with him for a bit, and that gave me a lot of direction and clarity and what I needed to do to become a data person. And then I had this opportunity to join a small company to be an analyst. So that's where I gained like my firsthand data related experience in A/B testing, analytics, model building. And then I'll skip like the middle bit. And then I was able to land interview opportunities with Meta, where I worked really hard to prepare. I prepared for months, right? I spent a lot of time practicing mock interviews, doing research, like watching interviews from their execs, practicing things out loud, writing things down. And eventually I landed a data scientist offer at Meta, which was a huge milestone for me. And from there, I went on to land another data scientist role with Nextdoor. So that was my corporate experience. So I was with Nextdoor until last year. And April last year, I was laid off. And after seeing a lot of tech layoffs, I think something like triggered in me. I was started to think about my career for the longer term. I was thinking like maybe this is a good chance for me to take a breather and pivot, because I've always wanted to write something. I've always taken an interest in blogging, but I never had the time to start. So that's when I started. I took it as a permission for me to start something else, and that's when I started writing on Medium and LinkedIn. So I'll take a pause there. Do you have any reactions for? Yeah.
So, I mean, one thing I wanted to go into is that I know in the middle of your career, you also changed locations quite a bit. Like, I think, I know you're from China and you got yourself into the United States and you went back to China, I believe, then to London. Like you seem to and the cool thing about you is you seem to put yourself in these positions where you don't quite have it figured out, but you figure it out. Like you put pressure on yourself to make it happen. So I just want to talk about like how you made those changes in location.
Yeah, so those changes are mostly not by choice. So for my first job was in New York, and as a person on a visa, I don't know how familiar you are with the lottery system in the US, but it was pretty bad. It's like it's a luck of a draw. You have to go through a lottery, and about 20-30% of people get the lottery. So most people don't. So I didn't get the lottery, so I had to leave the country. And so the company I was with at the time, they were willing to transfer me to a different office in a different country. Like I had the choice of Canada, Australia, and UK, and I chose UK. So while they were doing the transfer, it was taking longer than needed. So I moved back and then started a job in China because I just never knew when the transfer would come through. So after I started working in China for about half a year, I was told that your visa was approved for UK, you can now transfer and then move to the UK.
Okay, that makes sense. Cool. Yeah, and with regards to you writing, like how did you, number one, upskill to become such a good writer like you are today? And how was the start of your writing journey? Like, usually when you start writing online, people don't really know who you are, so it takes time to build momentum and start getting feedback. Like, what was that process for you to manufacture an audience if you had to do that? And also like to learn what it was you needed to find um the success that you've found.
Yeah, I think there are a few things. I think if you are starting out in a new field that you're not familiar with, always start out in an area where you do have some familiarity, right? Like for me, writing is new to me, but data science isn't. So I started writing in data science first. So that at least, takes 50% of the work off of my shoulder because I already know data science, so I can write more confidently. So I think this same thing applies to anybody trying to break into any new field. Find something that you're familiar with and start there. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is consistency. I think because there's something freeing about not having a job. There's something freeing about being let go and then have some firing you who you just think like, I want to prove everybody wrong. There was a firing me who thinks like, you know what, like if this world is not compatible with me, which it's not true, right? But like when you are laid off, you're like, okay, this is not fair of me. Like I'm going to build something better for myself. So I have that in me. So, and that I think powered me through hard times. I think the hard time being when you start out, you don't have an audience, right? And I think something in me thinks that I have to make this work. I have to, have to do something to prove myself. So I just push through every day, writing. I don't publish on Medium every day, but like maybe once a week. But I publish more often on LinkedIn. So I just keep going because I know that I'm the only one responsible for my life. And if I don't do something, nobody's going to come to save me. So, and I know sometimes when you have a job, you kind of care about your image. You're like, oh, what would my company think of me? Like, what would my colleagues think of me if I'm doing this side thing? But not having a job is so freeing because you don't have to worry about anything anymore. So I think that was really helpful for me to not care and then just go for it. So yeah, in short, the second thing is consistency. And the third thing is getting guidance. So I started writing. I wasn't bad at it actually. Even though English is my second language, I've always enjoyed writing English. There's something logical about English writing which I really like. And like soon after, I realized there's a format to becoming persuasive in writing. So I took a writing course from a writer that I really admire. He always write straight to your heart, and I feel like he's speaking to me directly. So I wanted to learn his writing style. So I took a course from him, and that was a big unlock for me into this writing world called copywriting. So the difference between writing and copywriting is copywriting serves a purpose. Copywriting usually persuades people to act, and that's different from just plain essay writing. So I learned copywriting. I learned the principles of copywriting, and I learned how to practice. Because in his course, he recommended you write 10 subject lines every day, because subject lines is the first thing that people see, and that makes them want to click. So I followed his advice. I practice every day. So I would say that is an accelerator for me, and that really helped me write more persuasively, both in long form and short form. So I think after that, I see my engagement improve, both on Medium and LinkedIn.
So you mentioned like yeah, like working for yourself is really freeing, but the other side of the token is that you lack structure. How did you create a structure for yourself from the very start? Was it all around writing? Was it taking courses? Was it mentorships? Like how did you manufacture the structure for yourself so that you could succeed on your own and know that the actions you're taking are getting you where you wanted to actually go and you're not just spinning your wheels and like writing for fun or something. You're actually creating a business that can sustain you.
Yeah, so I never actually had the end in mind. I never thought that I would create a business that is sustainable. I actually didn't know where I wanted to go, but I knew that I enjoy creative process. I knew that I enjoy writing, and I just wanted to keep writing and see where that takes me. So the structure sort of showed itself. So I started writing, right? And then the more I write about data science, and the better I get at writing, I see a pattern emerge, which is people engage with my writing. People ask me questions, people reach out to me and say, hey, I like that you wrote about XYZ. Can I ask you about ABC? So that is signal. That gives me the signal that, okay, your writing is going somewhere. I don't know where yet, but that is positive signal for me to keep doing it. So then I formed a habit of like, okay, the first 90 minutes of the day, I always write. And then, I engage with other writers. I read articles on Substack. I read other people's posts on LinkedIn. And that like constitutes a large part of my day. And then usually the afternoon is I take courses. I bought a blog writing course. I also bought like a LinkedIn writing course, because when I see the signal, right, that is my reward for like, okay, keep going. And how do you become better is that you borrow other people's knowledge. So I borrowed other people's knowledge in blog writing and LinkedIn writing and apply those in my writing. And I see that my writing is being scaled even more, and even more people reach out to me. So that's like a positive reinforcement to tell me to keep going. And eventually, a few months later, somebody reach out to me and say, hey, can you coach me? Because I really like your tips, and I'm now want to land a job in data. And I see you have the experience, and I see you share your insights, which are really valuable to me. But I feel like I need a bit more personalized guidance. Can you help me? That's where it came to me. I realized, oh, wow, okay, so this could turn into something that I didn't think of before. So that's sort of how the pattern emerged itself.
Okay, cool. So you definitely kind of followed your intuition about enjoying the writing process, and then you just went from there, and you listened to the signal and doubled down. Um, cool. So I have a few questions for you from people who saw our post yesterday about this interview. One of them is your top tip for someone with a biotech or life science background to catch a data hiring manager's attention in terms of resume and also like an outreach message.
Resume is that my advice is that you probably have more relevant experience than you think, and you just don't know how to position it to catch the hiring manager's attention. And oftentimes when I work with people, they think that, oh, I don't have anything relevant, or they say that I don't have relevant experience. I ask them a few questions, and I always uncover a few things that they can reframe in their resume. And that usually comes down to business impact, tools that they use, the size of the data or the type of the data they work with, right? Let's say if you're in life science or biotech, first, like, ask yourself what kind of projects have you worked on that involve some type of data, and how did you use that data to achieve what type of outcome? If you can think of even like one example, that gets you closer to capturing a hiring manager's attention.
Sweet.
What was the other one? Outreach, networking.
Yeah, so outreach, I think they're thinking in terms of like they just applied for a job and now they found the hiring manager and they sent like a message on LinkedIn, like what could be their um headline or like first line to capture their attention. I know that you've got some good tips on this.
Yeah, so my tip is that if you don't look desperate, and if you look like you have taken a genuine interest in the other person, that usually gives you a higher response rate, right? And you can use curiosity to generate a higher response rate as well. Like, because the most standard template would be, "Hi, my name is this. I am interested in your role. Here's my resume. Please let me know if I have any questions." That's fine, but they probably get 100 messages like that. So there are a few ways you can tailor it, right? First, you can tailor the subject line. The subject line, you can just say like "quick question mark." And when someone read it, they're like, "Oh, I've never seen this before. I might open it." And in your message, you can also tailor it to be more specific about what that person did, right? Like if the hiring manager says something interesting about the latest trending AI, you can say like, "Hey, Mike, saw you talk about XYZ point that really made me reflect on ABC." People love when you talk about them. Like people love hearing about their opinion. People love hearing about someone else reflecting on what they said, because people love themselves. Most people do. So if you can make it about them rather than about yourself, that will give you a higher open rate. And then, after you have some genuine exchanges, you can mention, right? Like, by the way, I saw that your company is hiring for XYZ, and I feel like I'm a good fit because of ABC. So that's the second point of tailoring. And then the last bit is that if you leave the message too open-ended, it's too much burden for someone to reply. If you say, "I want to break into data science, I would appreciate any tip," but the person doesn't even know you, like what tip can they give you? Like if it requires them having to go through your entire profile and understand you, that's too much work to ask from somebody, right? If you can be more specific, in terms of like the question you ask, you can ask them, "Oh, I saw 2 courses for Python. Should I go for course A or course B?" Then that's much easier to answer. That's less burden to start a conversation with you. Or if you can give them a clearer action, if you can say, "I would love to jump on a call to chat for you, to take 15 minutes of your time to chat about this role," then they can say yes or no, rather than an open-ended message like, "Oh, let me know what you think," or "I would appreciate any insight." So that's my tip.
That's awesome. That's a super comprehensive response, and I think they have everything they need to really level up their outreach game with just using this tidbit here from you. Thank you. Another question, I think you mentioned this already, but it's asking what is the first thing you work on in the day? You mentioned, I think it's writing. So like,
Mhm.
um, but the question is, what's the first thing you work on slash prioritize every morning?
Writing, 90 minutes writing.
So when you say 90 minutes writing, like what does that mean? You just sit down and like come up with headlines, or like is there um like what is your writing routine like?
Yeah, so I write blogs, emails, and social media posts, mostly on LinkedIn. So I usually prioritize writing long form in the morning because that takes more brain space. And even though it's not something I immediately want to publish, but it might be something from my idea bank. So I have a notebook of ideas that I keep. Like, say I'm walking and some idea came into my mind, I just write it down on my phone. So I either continue writing on an unfinished draft, or I start a new draft, choosing an idea from my idea bank. And then I also plan for a LinkedIn post if I choose to post that particular day. So I draft that as well after the long post. There isn't really that much system to it. I think I just create a block and tell myself you have to write something for a 90-minute block.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that there's like a system to what it is you decide you'll write about, like when it comes to your niche. There's probably certain topics that you want to cover in order to help your followers. Is this the case?
Yeah, so because I coach people, right, and also talk to people on the phone. So I always take a note of the things that they are struggling with, and those become ideas that I write about.
Okay, so then all of those ideas go into your idea bank, and then every morning you write long form about one of those ideas.
Yes.
And then you also write a LinkedIn post, and that's all the writing for the day, or are you also doing other writing? I'm curious.
Yeah, I also have an email funnel that I write emails, but it's not too different from, say, like a long form blog post. Maybe in emails, I'll make sure that it's maybe slightly shorter than a blog, so that it's a quicker skim for people. And I usually mention about like my coaching a little bit more in my emails, and maybe share some client cases as well.
So something that you do really, really well with your brand is you have a lot of clarity about who you are, what it is you can do for people, and how it is you help them. And that's something that I know a lot of people struggle with, and myself included, is having that clarity. Is this just something that I guess you develop over time the more you write, or are there tips for how to get a crystal clear clarity like you seem to have about what it is you write about, what it is you do, what your niche is?
Yeah, so it's both. So I would say clarity comes from action. So I had zero clarity what I wanted to do. I just started writing. And then the clarity presents itself because people sort of see my insights, and then they start to relate to things, and they start to reach out. And from people who reach out to me, I then decide, okay, this type of thing I want to do, that type of thing I don't want to do. And over time, I figure out what kind of people relate to my message the most, and what kind of people I actually don't want to help at this point. So through the iteration of writing and talking to people, right, I have more clarity on my niche. And then the second advice I have is I also am big on coaching because I'm a coach. I'm also big on being coached. I have had different coaches, and one of the coaches I had helped me with narrowing down my niche and adding more clarity to my message. Like asking questions like, who do you want to help? Who do you want to repel? And what's the specific outcome you want to get for the people you help? And what's the time frame? And what happens if they don't get the outcome? And what are the major challenges they face? What do you enjoy doing? What do you not enjoy doing? So through those exercises, I'm able to gain more clarity on my offer.
What have you been coached on, and how do you realize what it is you need to be coached on at any given time?
Yeah, so I had no idea what I needed to be coached on, because if you actually know, you probably already like figure something out. I think most people know that they are struggling, but they actually don't know what type of help they need. So I was lucky that I met my coach through a call, and then he just asked me a few questions, and he proposed like, those are the things I think you need. And then I said yes to it, and then he guided me through the whole process. And I think one of the biggest mistake that people make is that they seek clarity on their own. They think that I don't need coaching until I figure out what I need exactly. But it's actually the coaching that helps you figure out what you need, if that makes sense. Like the analogy I use is that if you feel sick, you go to the hospital. Like, you don't spend time analyzing which part of your body is dysfunctioning, because that's the doctor's job. You just need to know that something is not working and you need to go to the hospital, a trusted hospital, and let the doctor tells you what you need to do. So this means that you can just find like trusted people broadly in your area. Say I'm building a business, right? So I know that there are people in the business area who offer different types of help. So I just need to talk to some of them to figure out who's the best fit for me. I don't need to know exactly what help I need yet, because I honestly don't know. So I need trusted voices to tell me what I need, and then I will follow the blueprint. However, this is hinging on big assumption, is that if you can find a trusted party. I think that it's hard for people because the online coaching world has a lot of fluff and has a lot of people who are not qualified to coach. Because anyone can be a coach. You can claim to be a coach tomorrow and say, I help you coach XYZ, with no one can like prove or disprove if you can do it or not, right? So then it's your responsibility to do some research to see like, okay, what are some of the people that I broadly trust? And then I can have a conversation with them to figure out if it's a fit for us to work together.
What's one skill from data science that surprisingly gave you an edge as a solopreneur?
Maybe the analytics skills, but I don't think that's surprising, because that it's helpful for whatever you do, right? Because I think most business people focus on the offer, the service, but maybe they're a little bit short on analytics, on finding out patterns. But as a data person myself, that is just built in. Like I need to know what my numbers look like and how I can improve.
What numbers are most important for you to keep in mind?
That's a good question. I think it would be my like monthly revenue and operating margin.
Is there, I mean, in terms of your writing, I guess at this point you just are able to see if your writing is effective based on the your monthly revenue.
Oh, if you want to break it down into like writing, measuring if your writing is effective, if you don't have anything to sell, how do you measure your writing as effective would be like number of subscribers and engagement on your writing, right? I think for me, I would use Substack subscribers or LinkedIn followers. But if you do have an offer to sell, then it would be how many people converted into a customer or a client. Because you can have hundreds of followers on LinkedIn, but if you don't have the right positioning or an offer to sell, you might still make like zero or like hundreds a month, which won't sustain your lifestyle.
So like, are you looking at like what percentage of your LinkedIn following converts into coaching clients? Is that something you look at?
So what I look at is how many people that I talk to, or how many people who express interest in my service eventually converted to a customer or a client.
Okay, cool. Good to know. Um, I think another thing that helps about data science is that a lot of times that sort of job, you don't know exactly how it is you're going to solve a given problem, and you have this uncertainty that you have to deal with. You have to self-educate, you have to do research, you have to figure out how you're going to solve the problem. For me, that's the most applicable skill set that I've noticed that goes in towards something like entrepreneurship, where you have to create a structure for yourself. It's being able to manage uncertainty. I think you get a taste of that within the field of data science. What mental shift did you need to make when moving from a structured role as a data scientist to the uncertainty of solopreneurship?
The mental shift I think I had a lot of mental shift growth over the year, but I think the number one most important thing is that as an employee, you are using time to make money. As an entrepreneur, eventually you need to use money to make money. Otherwise, you won't be able to scale as much as you would like, because you only have 24 hours a day, right? There's a point where you would reach the point, if your business is doing well, you would reach a point where you don't have enough time to do everything, where the time is your biggest limit. And then you would, look into hiring, coaching, consulting, other things that can unblock you because you're limited by your time. So I think that's the biggest thing for me, is that realizing that money is a tool, money is not the goal, and you need to know how to work with money so that you can use it to 10x, 20x growth.
What were your first 3 steps in building your solopreneur journey from scratch?
I think the first step is to start doing something. And then the second step is to get coaching or courses that enable you to do that thing better. And then the third step is to keep doing it until you're bored. And when you're bored, you still keep doing it.
Cool. Straightforward. Okay. So when it comes to uh, your niche, what niche did you personally start with? Was it always data science? Like, how has it evolved since you've been writing? And do you anticipate that it's going to change anytime soon? And how do you think about this as it relates to the market that you're trying to compete with? Because the bigger your niche, the more competition there is. The smaller your niche, the easier it is for you to stand out, but it limits the how much you can grow.
Yeah, so I started out as in the data science niche because that's the thing I know best. And as time goes on, right, I now am a solopreneur, and I have a lot of insights on building businesses, on like coaching others. I start to share tips about building business and about coaching others as well. So I think that will continue as I settle into my new identity. So I think it'll be a blend of business and data science. So the thing about niche is that you do need to have a primary niche, but you don't have to be limited by having only one niche. Generally, like the recommendation is that you spend most of your time writing about or talking about your primary niche, and you can have like 1 to 2 other topics that you can still write about, because if you only write about one thing, you might be perceived as like a robotic person, because people buy from people. People don't buy from business, people buy people. And if you can be somebody they can relate to, and what does it mean by being somebody who can relate to? Because you have your emotions, that you have your life struggles. That's why people talk about their children, people talk about their family, people talk about their travel, because they want to be perceived as an authentic person. Because as an authentic person, you have all of these things going on in your life. So that's why it's okay to have your secondary niche, third niche that you can talk about, but as long as you have a primary niche that you spend most of your time on.
Agreed. Yeah. Great point. So like you're not tied to any one topic. You definitely want to have 2 to 3. This is a personal brand after all, if we're talking about like LinkedIn or some social media platform. So you need to show like you're a human, and like there's a limit. Like people don't have a lot of attention span to get to know you on the internet, so you do have to limit yourself maybe to 2 to 3 things. But your primary thing, that thing is probably going to be tied to what your offer is if you're making money, if you're making a business out of this, and that would evolve with time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so have been thinking a lot about this. For me, I think that I'm a pretty small creator on LinkedIn, and I need something that is very specific. So for me, something that I've actually done before, this would be like my primary niche I'm talking about. Something I've actually done before is pivoted from the biotech industry to data analytics. And I know a lot of people want to do the same thing. So I'm thinking that that should be my primary niche for now.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great niche. Very specific.
And in terms of like rounding out my brand to show my personality, one thing that I really enjoy is fitness. So like I am super passionate about bodybuilding, going to the gym, So I'm wondering if I should be posting maybe every now and then like a video of me in the gym doing something. But I also worry that it will come off as not professional or that it just wouldn't land well with the people on LinkedIn to post like a gym thing.
What's the connection between going to the gym and switching from biotech to data science or data analytics?
The connection is not really present. In the future, if I continue to grow my brand, then fitness would become something that maybe I pivot towards. But right now, all it's serving is to show my personality.
Is there
Um,
any connection between the common challenges? Say like person A wants to become more fit, person B wants to transition from biotech to data analytics. Can you find any commonalities in the challenges they face?
I think maybe something that would help is like if you're trying to pivot into analytics versus if you're trying to get fit. In both scenarios, your mental health is important. So, having like a fitness routine would help. I'm not sure if I answered your question. What was your question again?
Like, can you find like commonalities in the challenges that somebody is trying to get fit and somebody's trying to pivot to analytics would face?
It would be consistency, showing up without getting results for a prolonged period of time, doing something hard, grit, reacting to um, reacting to signal, like you said, and doubling down on what's working and what's not. These are kind of things that you get from trying to do anything.
There you go.
Um, but in terms of like, I think I'm still missing like a personality aspect, like showing me. Like, do you have to like post selfies about yourself and like talk about your travels or something? Like, or talk about your family? Like, I guess for me, I'm not sure how I want to share myself.
No, I don't. I don't post selfies. I don't talk about my travels or my family. So it's okay if you don't. But I'm just sharing that some people do because of that reason. You don't have to do that.
What are your 2 to 3 topics that you talk about? Well, I know you have data science or like pivoting or like building a career in data science. So like what are the other topics that you have?
The other one that I talk about the most is building a business and my solopreneur journey.
And then do you have something that like helps people see your personality or like see that you're human?
I think it's mostly from like the way I write. Like I'm pretty uh blunt when I write. And this is something a lot of people mentioned to me as well that they like. Maybe some people don't like it. That's fine because I only want to attract people who resonate with what I write, right? So your writing style in itself can like your word choice, your structure, the story you choose to tell can inherently become part of your brand. And for me, um, part of it is my story, right? Like I talk about the layoff I went through, and for you, you can think about specific things that happened in your life that made you who you are. It could be that you chose to quit your job. It could be something else. It could be how you grew from somebody who's less fit and to somebody who's more fit.
Cool. It's awesome to hear your feedback on this. So in terms of the data science field, where do you see roles now versus when you were starting, and how do you see it evolving into the future?
Yeah, so I think I posted about it a few days ago about like the changes I see. I think the first change I see is that roles are getting more specific and tailored to the company and team. I think before there might be more general data roles, but now, data science already split into, general data scientist, product, and then there's machine learning engineer, right? And then in the future, it could, split into like if you're machine learning, like what's your specification? Like, do you focus on AI, Gen AI specifically? or is it more like a classic machine learning with regressions? So I think that will continue. And then the second thing I see is that I think before, portfolio projects is a huge thing, because when data science was relatively new, a lot of people didn't have the degree because our school's always behind the industry, right? Um, and it's fine because the demand is so big, and you can just build a portfolio and land a job. But now just having a portfolio with pet projects won't be enough, because most projects is just data exploration, and you cannot demonstrate any business change through that. So you need to think about how to actually build things to showcase what you can actually do. And usually it's better to build a project on your personal data so that you can actually change your behavior based on your analysis. And that is your business outcome. That is your impact. Right. And another way is that you can get real world experience through volunteering or freelance work. And those are better than pet projects. So
Definitely.
those are the things I see happening. Yeah.
In terms of freelance work, do you have any advice? I personally am creating a presence for myself on Upwork right now. I spoke with Anas last week about this, but I'm wondering if you have 2 cents on like, landing freelance projects on LinkedIn versus Upwork, and any experience you have or any insights.
Yeah, I don't really, because I found out that I wasn't interested in freelancing, and I decided pretty early on that that's not my focus. So I didn't do any freelance work. Um, the advice I can share though is that when I was starting out writing, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And when I built my presence on LinkedIn, I did have freelance opportunities reaching out to me. And it's through talking to those people that made me realize I don't want to do freelancing. So I think when you consider LinkedIn versus Upwork, like LinkedIn is a longer game. If you build a big enough presence, some unexpected opportunities will come to you, and it might include freelance. Versus those sites are a short game, right? Like you submit your proposal and you get a project. So I think you probably want to build both. Yeah.
In terms of like, what was it about freelancing that you didn't like?
For me, it's just data science work in a different form. I think after I started writing, I pretty soon decided I want to pivot away from doing data science work. I not coach people, but I'm not a data scientist per se, right? I am now a coach. So, and that's fundamentally different than being a data scientist. And if I take on data science freelance projects, I am still a data scientist. And that is a conscious decision I've made not to do.
So one thing that I actually kind of struggle with is that I feel like I need to have some aspect of me that continues to work within data to give advice. I also don't have nearly as much experience as you with data science, but I feel like I still need, part of me needs to be working on data science um in some way in order to give the best advice to my audience if I want to help them like pivot from biotech to data, even though I've already done that. But I still feel like I feel like I don't know, I need to still be in there with them. If that makes sense.
It does. I think it's a very reasonable imposter syndrome. What my advice for you is you just keep marketing yourself, and then you might be surprised that some people might reach out to you because you are already good enough, and then they are validation that you are, if that makes sense at all. Like I didn't think much about like, oh, if I can coach people or not. Like people will reach out to me and then they made me feel that I was good enough. And then I realized I am good enough.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think it's just a case of imposter syndrome for me. If you could give advice to yourself when starting out your career, but as pretending that you're starting your career today, what would you say?
Data science specifically, right? Rather than entrepreneurship.
It can be both. It can be either, whichever you feel you wish you could tell yourself.
Hmm. I think if, let's say it's two separate scenarios, if I were to start a corporate career as someone fresh, I would definitely stay on top of all of the latest developments in generative AI. We're living in an incredible era where things are changing dramatically, but no one can quite picture exactly how. And this is a great opportunity for you to stay on top of the latest things so that one day when things are looking like they're more in shape, you are the first in line ready to contribute. And I think we're living in an incredible era where degrees might not be as important as it used to be, simply because, education is usually lacking behind industry. So I think this is an incredible opportunity, if you have the curiosity to learn anything that piques your interest, to learn anything that people talk about. So that's what I would do. I think I would not be bound to a specific degree. Like, I would keep my eyes open for like everything that's going on in the tech field, assuming we're talking about the tech field. And I would start networking from day zero. I didn't realize this is so important until later, but I would try to go to meetups. I would try to connect with people on LinkedIn, not because you're looking for a job, just because you're genuinely interested in what they do. And then you start chatting with no end goal in mind, and you will be surprised how things could blossom into something else.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome advice.
Yeah. And let's say the second track is if you want to start your own business. If I were to do it from day one, if I were to redo it, honestly, this is something I actually have no regrets, because I invested in coaching and courses very early on, a few months into my solopreneur journey. So I practically made no mistake. That's why I was able to scale so quickly. I took no wrong turns, made no mistake. I got advice along the way, every step of the way. So that's why I was able to, write persuasively. I was able to land clients really quickly. I was able to scale my business really quickly. So I think getting the right guidance for me was pivotal in my business building.
That's awesome. You sound like you're really coachable because you were able to apply all of the guidance you got very effectively. Do you have any tips on how to be the best mentee or client for your coach?
Yeah, I do. I think the number one thing is actually believing that you can achieve the result with the help. I think people, being human beings, we are scared of our own success. We're scared of the unknown. And even if we say we buy into a coaching program or we find a mentor or coach, we're still resistant to change because that's how we're wired to be, right? If someone tell you to do something, you might think that, oh, that's beneath me. Or you might think that, oh, I know, but I don't want to. And my advice is that put your bias aside, just embrace it, jump in. If you trust somebody to be your coach or a mentor, if they tell you to do something, do it. Don't then not do it and then complain that you don't get the results, because 99% of the time is because you didn't do the thing that they asked you to do. So I think for me, I was determined to achieve the progress that my coaches told me that I could achieve. And I executed the things that they told me to do, and then I see the results. So that's my advice.
What's the best way for people to get in contact with you if they want to work with you, or if they want to follow along with what you're doing online?
LinkedIn.
So just send you a DM.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you're working on that's new that you want to tell people about? And also, where can people find you? I guess you said LinkedIn already, but what's your bio? What's your username and stuff?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, I am Mandy Liu. I think it's not a very unique name, so I also added ex Meta in my title, so I'm easier to find. I'm also on Substack as Smarter Techies. And I'm also on Medium as Mandy Liu. So those are the platforms I hang out. And in terms of something new I'm doing, so I started coaching creators this year, not sort of like through some active channel, because I wrote a few things about my solopreneurship journey, and I got some interested people reaching out to me, asking me if I could coach them. It's actually similar to how I started coaching data scientists. It's the exact same path where I just share what happened to me genuinely, and then I get people reaching out to me. So right now I'm coaching a few creators who are creating online, attracting clients, attracting opportunities. So I teach them how to create content that's convincing. I teach them how to identify their niche. I teach them how to get clarity on their offer so that people would want to buy their services. And I teach them how to talk to people in DMs and how to talk to people on calls. Basically what I have been doing for the past year.
Sweet. That sounds like an awesome offer. And I want to thank you for coming on to this show. And yeah,
Thanks for having me.
thanks, Mandy.